Hey guys, Marcus Melnick here with Firearm Mentor. Hope you're enjoying my YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. These little things are free to you and really help the channel. I appreciate your support. Enjoy. Thank you.
The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters. And welcome to the Personal Safety Show. This is Marcus Melnick from Stress to Logic and Firearm Mentor, where we train people to be ready, remain safe, stay sharp, and train for the moment that matters. And I have 3 letters that's going to sum up today's episode, and those 3 letters are OMG. Let me explain what I mean. I'm recording this on Halloween, so I hope that everybody had a wonderful Halloween and are eating all their kids' Reese's peanut butter cups, etc., because we all know the parents steal them. I asked my wife, "Why'd you buy Reese's?" She's like, "For the kids." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? That's for the parents." In any event, last weekend, I had the awesome opportunity to go to the site in Mount Carroll. The site is a former Blackwater training facility, and Blackwater got in a lot of trouble in the sandbox, but their facility is spectacular. First of all, the accommodations was called Black Bear Lodge North. Now, it was kind of like summer camp. There was 4 of us, myself and 3 others. We each had our own room, but the rooms were about as big as a closet. It had a full-size bed and then a twin-size upper bunk, but I had my own area. So not that comfortable, but if you're a camper or you like it rustically, it was beautiful. These rooms opened up into a living room or a great room with a ton of loungers and a TV and DVDs, and we had all sorts of entertainment. Believe me, by the end of the day, I was exhausted. I watched a little bit, but I didn't really stick around for the entertainment. But we also had our own personal chef. This chef was spectacular. First of all, she was a great cook, and she had a variety of background in safety and in cooking. And she mentioned, "Hey, I'm going to make you guys creme brulee for dessert." And so I quietly said to her, "Hey, I appreciate it. However, I'm diabetic, so you don't have to make me one." She said, "Oh, you're diabetic? I've got it was a chocolate lava cake that was sugar-free, and I'll make it for you." And I said, "That's really not necessary. I brought sugar-free sweets." And no, let me do it. I love doing it. So she did it. We came in for lunch that day, and the creme brulees were out, and so was this lava cake. And what she said to me was, "I didn't like the way it turned out. I'm going to make you another one." And I didn't even taste it at that point. And so while we were eating, she cooked up another one, and it did not even taste sugar-free. Either she tricked me or she's a fantastic cook. Just very personable. The people there were unbelievably customer service friendly. And we were on our own. We did try to see that green comet that was in the sky. Very interesting. We went outside, and it's in the middle of nowhere. There's no street lights. There's no lights. It's pitch black. And so we go outside with our binoculars at night to look up at the sky, and we hear all these rustle, 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 rustle. Apparently it was deer. I didn't know that, and I was like, I hope it's not a bear. We don't really have bears in Illinois, and the ones we do have don't always win football games. There you go. That's my Halloween joke. So let me tell you about this class. First of all, I go to a lot of education, and I'm a little bit of an education snob. So there are very good instructors out there, and there are not so good instructors out there. And before I dive into how awesome our instructor was, I'm going to go back a good 20 years. And I worked for the Glencoe Police and Fire Department, where the best chief I've ever worked for, I've worked for 4, Michael Milks, talked about experts getting back to the basics. And I kind of remembered that throughout my training, and the reason why, it's because highly skilled individuals in various fields continually practice and refine their fundamental skills because they understand that advanced abilities stem from a solid foundation. So with that said, our instructor, Sheriff Steve Stovall from Stevenson County, which is south of Rockford, was our instructor. And I'll tell you a little bit about him. He was originally a volunteer in the Freeport Auxiliary Police in the early 90s, and he was hired in August of 94 as a full-timer. He spent 14 years at the Freeport Police Department, working in patrol, the Detective Bureau, Street Crime Unit, State Line Area Narcotics Team, FBI Task Force, DEA Task Force, and was a team leader for the FPD Emergency Response Team. That's probably similar to a SWAT. And in 2007, he left the Freeport Police Department to accept a position as a contracted firearms and tactics instructor through the State Department. While working as an instructor, he was assigned to a team leader position in the Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program. He wrote curriculum, instructed students, and is considered a SME, or subject matter expert, in all areas of firearms and tactics. To this day, he continues to teach firearms and tactics classes and is a valuable resource. In 2014, he was hired by the previous sheriff, David Snyders, as the assistant jail administrator and served in that position until his promotion to jail administrator. During that time, he was also assigned to the Stevenson County Sheriff Office Emergency Response Team, where he oversees training, firearms tactics, and is the on-scene commander of critical situations in Stevenson County. Some of his many accomplishments while jail administrator included facility reorganization, equipment updates, safety and security updates to the building and network, and researching solutions for current and future mechanical updates and replacements. Additionally, new procedures were established for handling inmates during critical situations, as well as updating the disaster plan for the jail and overseeing procedures for dealing with COVID-19. In 2021, he was promoted to chief deputy and was responsible for overseeing day-to-day ops in the sheriff's office, and some of the duties were budgeting, purchasing, scheduling, internal investigations, discipline, maintaining the courthouse, jail, and safety buildings. He went to the Illinois State Police Academy and went to Northwestern Center for Public Safety School of Police Staff and Command, Class 410. I was Class 236, so similar education. He is running again for a re-election in Stevenson County. So if you are able to vote, I would look into this guy. I can't tell you to vote for him, but he's a strong candidate. I can't say he's the best because this is nonprofit radio, but I was extremely impressed with him. So what did we do at this advanced three-gun school? Well, we started out in the classroom where we went over a ton of safety information. He also taught us about aiming and adjusting our aim and using scopes and using red dots. And we're probably there about an hour. And the rest of that morning, we focused on fundamentals. And that's why I brought it up at the beginning of the show. I learned a lot, and I know a lot, but a true expert continues to learn once they've learned it all. And there's a little bit of a reset that I had that is only going to make me a better instructor. One of the best things that he did for me, I will tell you what I used to say in classes, and this is changing. I used to say, as long as your thumbs are on the side of the firearm and not in the way of the slide so you don't get slide bite, it doesn't matter where they are. He showed me the appropriate grip, and he explained why it was the appropriate grip. And basically, if you have your index finger along one side of the gun, your opposite hand thumb should be equal distance with your index finger. It's more of a visual, but that made me shoot a ton better. And I was already, I'm not an Olympic shooter. I'm a defensive shooter, and I always hit the target. But he made me hit smaller targets and smaller targets. We were about 30 feet away working on a 3-inch target. And I kept missing it. And I'm like, this is not right. I'm aiming it correctly. And he started the class with, most of the time, it's the shooter, not the equipment. And I had a Glock 19X. That's what I was using. So I keep missing. And I'm slightly missing. It's a 3-inch circle on a piece of paper, and I'm just outside of it. And I know how to shoot. And I should have been able to hit in that circle. So the instructor takes the firearm, and I was like, can you just give it throw a couple rounds downrange? And he did. And he missed at the exact same amount that I missed. Very interesting. So, of course, I have a sarcastic sense of humor. I'm like, oh, it's the shooter, huh? So he was able to determine that my rear sight was a little bit slightly out of alignment for that particular gun. And when I went to RMG Guns yesterday, I asked one of the guys that works on guns, and he said it could be the crown also where the muzzle is. So I said, I'll bring it in. I had it in my car, but I was a little embarrassed because I hadn't cleaned it yet. So I didn't want to give him and I put several hundred rounds through. I didn't want to give him a dirty gun. So that was just me. I said, next time I'll bring it in. And he'll take a look at it, and I might need new sights. The other thing I learned is that the factory sights on a Glock and on most firearms are good enough. They're not meant for actual competition precision shooting. They're meant for self-defense. So I may be upgrading my sights. I have a 3-dot system on the Glock 19, and he said, this is really busy. His firearm, the front post, was all black. Now, I'm not sure if I want to do that or use a Heine sight or figure 8. I'm not exactly sure. I have to do some research into it. And he just, holy cow. So that was just the back to basics. And we did it with pistol, we did it with shotgun, and we did it with rifle. I found out, and he also fixed up my optic on my rifle. It was loose, and I didn't know that. And then what we were able to do is zero in the optic. I thought it was zeroed. Apparently it wasn't. So again, everyone has to understand my area of expertise is handguns, not rifles, although I am proficient with a rifle. I was actually a much, much better shot with the rifle because it's a rifle and not a pistol. I hit almost everything. And the further we got back from the target, this is an outdoor range, we had to put up steel because we didn't want to have to walk back and forth. And with steel, you get an immediate feedback, a ping. It's a very satisfying noise. The other thing they had set up was a moving target. So it was a piece of steel shaped like a silhouette, and it was on I don't even know what it's called, but like a conveyor. So it would move in between the targets. It was really, and it was human size, or slightly smaller than human size. So we were able to actually increase our shooting skills, not only statically, but with a moving target. And we didn't move in those scenarios. We ended up shooting with shotguns, and I had a little malfunction. I have a double barrel. Both barrels fired at the same time. And boy, that recoil stung a little bit, and everyone looked at me. I guess it was when you're shooting, you're kind of focused in, and you filter out things. They looked at me. Apparently, I got knocked back a step. I didn't realize it. They're like, what are you shooting? And I opened up the breech, and both primers were indented, and the shells had both fired. Never happened to me before, and it never happened again because we continued to use the shotguns. Truth be told, all right, guys, I'm a wimp. That is brutal on your shoulders. So I didn't continue with all the shotgun stuff. Plus, they all had semi-auto shotguns, and a 2-rounder versus a semi-auto is really not a good competition. We didn't really compete against each other. We competed against ourselves. It was not, we teased each other. We had a good time. So that was the first morning. Then we broke for lunch. We went inside. We had lunch, and we returned outside. And that's when we started working on zeroing our ARs. And I might be getting the order incorrect, but in any event, we did it. We stood at 25 yards, and we zeroed our ARs. And I learned something new about my optic. If you are further away, that reticle should be dimmer. because what it does is it covers the target completely. It's very difficult to see. Now I'm 52. I need new glasses. It was very difficult for me to see at 300 yards. So we zeroed at 20. We zeroed for 100 yards at 25. We went back to 100 yards, and we were accurate. Then we fine-tuned it. We went back to 200 yards, and I could still hit the target at 200 yards, not as consistently as I did when I was closer. And then when I was at 300 yards, I didn't really shoot much. I couldn't see the target. The old man eyes couldn't see the target. That's why your snipers are young guys in the military, not 52-year-olds who wear progressive lenses. And I made a joke when I was doing a lesson that I can always tell when the older police officers, or those are in their 40s and 50s, because it looks like they're nodding because they're trying to find the sweet spot in their progressive lenses. And it's kind of funny when they're doing that. But we were able to zero the optics. We were able to do shotgun shooting. And the shotgun shooting was, I didn't do that part because I had a really short barrel, legal short barrel. And just at the distances that firearm would not have done well. So and my shoulder wouldn't have done well. So that's why I stopped it. We got some great photos. We got some great video. And there's a lot of interest in the group, not from me, and I'll explain why in a minute, of doing a sniper class. And for me, I am a data guy. I am a math guy, but I don't want to have to sit there and try to figure out the curvature of the earth, the wind direction, the wind speed, the drop of the bullet, the height of the it's a lot of complicated stuff. So you sit there and you do all this math and you adjust your scope and then you shoot one bullet. For me, that is not exciting. It's not sexy. I'd rather go in and learn how to do defensive shooting. But the other guys in the group may do that. The other reason why it was really difficult for me to shoot prone, and I found this out when I came back and went to the doctor, I've been having some upper back and neck pain and headaches. And I'm like, this is just grating on me. So I went to my physician. We had an MRI done, and basically I got arthritis in my neck, old man. So what they're doing is a cortisone shot next week. So I have been called a pain in the neck. I will experience a pain in the neck, but hopefully I'll get relief. So laying down on my stomach and looking through the scope actually put a lot of pressure on my neck, and I was like, I can't. I got a headache. I can't do this. And the headache was not from the gunshots. It was from the position, and the headphones that I was wearing were a little too tight. I mean, they filtered out noise greatly, but if I wear them for an extended amount of time, they get tight. Now, I brought electronic earplugs with, but they were buried in my bag, and I thought I left them at home. Not a big deal. The whole idea is about safety. And day 2, we continued to work on our ARs as precision shooters, and we just had a grand old time. It was absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to go back. I want my listeners to know that this is my dream, teaching people about safety. If it weren't for you, if it weren't for my listeners, I couldn't live my dream. So on behalf of my family and myself, I want to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to live my dream. And I also want to continue to live my dream, and I'm excited to continue to spread the word of safety. Recently, I began a new service as a conference keynote speaker. So if anyone would like for me to speak at future events, or if anyone knows of an introduction or would like to discuss how we can work with one another, I'd love to do just that. The keynote speaking website is www.stress2logic.com. That is STRESS, 2LOGIC.com. If you're aware of any conference speaking engagements where you'd like to have me speak, I'd love an introduction. You can always share my electronic business card, which is Marcus Melnick, MarcusMelnick.com. Now, back to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard my commercial for my speaking business. That's with Stress to Logic. And next week, I'm going to be presenting at a local Hadassah group. So what is Hadassah? Well, basically, these are Jewish women who are Zionists, and they stand for helping people in the community. They stand for helping Israel. They want to bring healing to the world. And the topic I'm going to be speaking on is scams and street smarts for older Americans. This has been delivered to several groups. It is always well received. This weekend, I'll be just honing the presentation just a little bit, and we'll be going from there. So if your organization has an opportunity to speak, or you need training in safety, the whole menu of topics, and I can do more topics than that, but the whole menu of topics is located at www.stress2logic.com. You can always use the contact me form, but I do have an electronic business card with all of my contact information, and that business card is at www.marcusmelnick, marcusmelnick.com. So this week I had a lesson with a student, and she said to me something to the effect of, I really need a shooting buddy. And I totally understand. I don't like to go shooting myself. I always like to go with someone else. I have gone by myself. But a lot of times it's a lot more fun if you go with someone. So we were at my favorite gun store, RMG, in Mundelein, and they've been on the show. I've talked about them. They are so nice and so customer service, and the prices are reasonable. I buy my stuff from there, and I recommend that everyone else does. If you stop in, just tell them that you heard about the place from Marcus Melnick. And by the way, I don't get any kickbacks, or I don't get any commissions when I help people buy a gun. I don't, on purpose, so that I'm not influenced by money. But I always like to tell them, hey, I'm referring business to you. And they always take care of my customers. So she was saying, hey, I'd really like a shooting buddy. And I said, ooh, let's go inside. I got the perfect thing for you. So before we're walking to the range, and that was after the range, but we go in, and there's another student there with Jess, who's the instructor at RMG. And my student and that student looked at each other and said, I know you. So my student was a wedding coordinator, and the other student was a florist, and they had worked together before on a wedding or multiple weddings. I don't remember, but it was just kind of funny. So she was saying, I need a shooting buddy. Well, RMG on the first and third Fridays of the month from 6:30 to 8:30 has a women's only social and shooting event. Jess Oliver is the instructor for that. She is unbelievably fantastic. And again, you remember I said earlier in the show, I'm kind of a snob with instructors. She's great. Really, really great instructor. And very, very easy to deal with, approachable, pleasant. And there's different kinds of instructors out there. And if you haven't had a military background, then it can be a little off-putting. And it's kind of funny. I had a student the previous week who said, I really need to build up my skills. Oh, okay. Well, did you already take your concealed carry class? Yes. And so he was telling me, and I'm apolitical in the classes. I'm about safety. I'm about function. I'm not about you should vote for so-and-so or you should vote for so-and-so. I don't do that. I don't participate in when unconstitutional law gets passed. I don't participate in the lawsuits. I follow them. I report on them. But my lane is education. So I had this guy. He was a great guy, decent shooter. And he said, yeah, my instructor was from the Chicago Police Department, and he was kind of like Archie Bunker. Just a lot of inappropriate comments in the class. And not said in jest, just inappropriate about different people, and it was very jaded. And those weren't my words. Those are the words of this student. So we have classes every month. Our next class, and we have only a couple spots left, is going to be the 15th and 16th of November. before Thanksgiving. So if you are up for a renewal and you say you can't make the class, let me know. We can do a private one-on-one. If you come out to me, there is really no extra charge except for if you do a private one-on-one for renewal, the range fee is not included. If you go with a larger class, it is included. So that's the only difference. The payment to me is exactly the same. And here's another tip for everyone. On social media platforms, and I'm talking Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Google My Business, I put out 2 safety videos a week. These are 1 to 2 minutes, really easy. How do I renew my FOID? How do I renew this? What are the qualifications for concealed carry? The one I put out, and hopefully you did this last night, was you got to change your batteries in your smoke detectors and your carbon monoxide detectors. And I'm actually going to do that ahead of the change your clocks because no one's home and I can not have someone coming out of the bedroom. What's that noise? So I will be doing that. But when you're doing that, if you have a gun safe that is electronic, change the batteries, charge it. If you have an optic, if you have a light, charge it. Change the batteries. Go forward and do these things because equipment only fails upon being tested or needed. And you don't want to have to rely on an optic on a pistol or rifle. Holy cow, God forbid there's that moment where you need it and your optic doesn't work and you haven't trained with iron sights or the iron sights are not co-witnessing. You're going to be in trouble. And for the cost of a couple batteries, really, you're going to blow it off? No. The other reason why I tell everyone to change their batteries is there is a gun safe brand called Gun Vault. Highly recommended. I had one for, a good 10 years. And dummy me did not change the batteries or even check the batteries. It wasn't even a thought in my mind. So one day, and it's a key backup, it's a punch code. I punch in the code and no beeps, no nothing, no power. What the heck is going on? So I took the key, I opened it, I emptied it safely, and then I looked inside and my 10-year-old batteries had leaked everywhere. So I called Gun Vault and I said, how do I clean this? What do I do? They said, what's your address? And they sent me a replacement. The only question they said was, what's your address? They sent me a new one. Guess what? That created a customer for life, and now I recommend them. Stay tuned.
The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters.